Hey there, you're catching another episode of the Wonderfully Knit podcast. Podcast by a non-traditional pre-med in an application cycle right now. And where my life hits that at the intersection of being me and being crafty. I make a lot of stuff. So hang out if you're a medical person or if you just like medicine. Or if you like crafting and don't mind when medical people talk about being medical. Alright, so today's thing we're going to start out with is number one, of course, we are online now at 3 places because I have a Facebook page that I've started now that we've had 4 episodes. The Facebook page can be found by just searching Wonderfully Knit Podcast on Facebook. I will pop a link into the show notes, which can be found at Wonderfully Knit Podcast, all one word, no spaces, .blogspot.com. And of course on Ravelry.com, if you do a search in groups for Wonderfully Knit Podcast, you'll find us as well. So do check those out. And like I said, I'll put the link to the new Facebook page in the post for today concerning today's podcast. So normally what I've established thus far is that normally after this we get started in pre-med student stuff. And it occurred to me this morning that why the snot do this stuff at all? I mean, why does it matter? Nobody cares. So, why be a crafty person at all and try to advertise that about pre-med stuff? I do a lot of different crafts. I mean, I've talked about all kinds of stuff on here. Sewing and knitting and baking bread and having all of these other various crafty sorts of passions that I do. Why on earth would I try to combine that with pre-med anything? And the answer is, well, the answer is actually multifaceted. Number one, I'm going to be who I am regardless of career, and the person that I'm going to be in my career will inform the person that I am not in that career, and vice versa. But the career is going to go away. At some point, you're going to retire. You're going to maybe transfer out of the career that you're in into doing something else. Hello, that's what I did. So a career can actually be short-lived, but the person that you are underneath, of course, matters. Number 2, it's a mark of sanity. It's a touch point of staying grounded in who you are and reminding yourself that there is, in fact, a world outside of medicine and that it's okay that sometimes you seek some shelter or escapism or whatever in that world, and that it's good to do so. We all need breaks in medicine, I think. We all need breaks from being in medicine. We can get a little obsessed about it, a little bit too goal-oriented, and when we see a whole bunch of unpleasantness of varying degrees and type, it really helps to be able to get out and go do something that isn't medicine. For some people, that's going to be like running, get those endorphins up and feeling good. For some people, it's going to be other stuff. I kind of try to do both. Some exercise, of course, helps all the time, but, you know. Then there's the crafts that I do. On top of that, of course, especially if you're involved in a community of crafters, as I am in my case, a few community of crafters actually, as I am in my case, it's one of those things that makes you look well-rounded because you're not laser-focused on just the one goal. You actually have several goals all at once is really what that means. And you can maintain, or you know when to put those goals aside and say, I either need to learn more about what I'm doing here, or this project is not what I thought it was when I started it, and that kind of things. There's a lot of valuable lessons to be had in being that kind of well-rounded person, for whom, in my case, crafting is a part of our lives. And of course, in the SCA that I've mentioned before, which this is not anything like an official anything for, or mouthpiece of, I just need to be clear on that. But there's a lot of opportunities for personal advancement, whether or not you get any form of award or anything. So opportunities to do volunteerism. Like I said, I have done demos in schools and things like that. And so just belonging to that organization itself is often an opportunity to become a bigger person. Someone who knows that the patients that we see every day are more than just the patient in front of us, but, you know, people with lives outside of it who go to that and who need our compassion. So, you know, why do this stuff at all? Because I'm human, and it's good to know that I'm human. Stash this week. Now, last week, of course, you know, I missed the podcast, and my apologies for that. It was a case where life really stacked up on all of us last week, and everybody in the house had stuff that they were doing. I think only the 6-year-old didn't. And so we stayed really pretty busy, and I kept finding this thing that at the end of the day I had gone, oh, I forgot to record today. Oh, I didn't have time to record today. Oh, man, I didn't record today. And at this point, I'm looking at Saturday going, I'm recording on Wednesday normally anyway. I think I'll just hold off. So I tried to let people know that there was at least a delayed podcast last week. And so hopefully everybody got that message if you were looking forward to this. So hopefully you hung around with me. But anyway, one of the great things that happened last week, I like shiny new things, and so this is going to be my stash enhancement, because I didn't get anything else last week, really. Well, kind of. I'll tell you about it in a minute. It's actually some of the stash stuff falls under projects that I'll tell you about here in a minute. So, but here is my new shiny thing. It's an iPhone 6, not the 6 Plus, because if I want a mini tablet, I'll buy a mini tablet. But it's shiny and pretty, and this is the gold one. Yeah, there you can kind of tell that way. This is the gold one. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to name it yet. But because right now it's the pretty. It's the shiny pretty. I really like it. My old phone, which was a 4S, had stopped holding battery adequately. We need to replace the battery, and it was just time, because I didn't have enough space, especially with intending to go on to med school like I am. I know that I'm going to need more space for all of the things I'm going to be asking my phone to do. At some point, I'm probably going to get a Mobi, which is one of the battery packs that you could put on this, so that in addition to being protected, because it makes me really antsy that there's not any protection on this. I put protection on all of my phones, all of my, tablets, all of my, laptop, anything I can that I'm going to be dragging around, I need to put protection on it, because it makes me antsy otherwise. I can't afford to replace these things. So, but a Mobi is a protective cover case for the iPhone that also has a battery backup for it. And one of the continual problems in especially in hospitals, which are practically built to resist nuclear fire, is that they do not get cell phone reception very well. When they do, it tends to be just enough bars to make your phone ask for more. And then if they have Wi-Fi, it often drops out really, really quickly, because it's programmed to do that. If you're not using it, they want the bandwidth to go to the other patients who are using it, or the other employees who are using it. But the problem is with my old phone, I was actually running entirely out of power well before I was halfway just through a volunteer shift, which are quite short in my organization. So I have the new shiny. And it's pretty, and it makes pretty sounds, and it knows me. So on to this week's projects. You guys will remember. Oh, I dropped something. If you've been listening or watching for a while now, you guys will remember that I had the Almondine socks out of that crazy purple and lime and like strong green yarn, and I ended up having to frog them because they weren't going to fit anybody in my house very well. Yeah, so I decided that I wasn't going to let some yarn be the boss of me, and I determined what I was going to do with it. And I started a project, and I finished it between the last episode that I recorded and this episode. And I'm really very pleased with it. There's kind of some new experiments in it. This is a toe-up sock, and it is a kind of, the pattern is called woven rib. Hopefully you can see the slip stitches there. It's toe-up. And it's just the slip stitch pattern is from one of my stitch dictionaries for knitting, which, by the way, I recommend to you if you don't have any. Stitch dictionaries for both knitting and crochet are out there, as well as, I suppose, weaving. You know, there's lots of pattern books out there, drafting books and this kind of thing. And I recommend the heck out of them to you because I was able to whip out a project. I didn't have to think much about it. This was fairly autopilot. There's 4 rows, but 2 of them are knit as the stitches appear. And so really it's just a 2-row pattern. In addition, I got to try a new heel. Some friends of mine, a friend of mine who I've known for a long time in the knitting community locally, she actually has another video podcast, which I recommend to you if you're interested in knitting and spinning. And it is Caffeinated Knitting with Caffeinated Gert and Crafty Alley. I'll put a link in the show notes today. And they were talking about this heel that they had said, and they had worked with it a couple of times at the point at which I saw. And because I'm not caught up on their podcast. I'm not. I can't. But anyway, I can't possibly stay caught up on all of the podcasts that I try to watch. It's not physically possible. I'm subscribed to that many. So, but they were talking about a particular kind of heel that they were very pleased with, and I decided to go ahead and give it a try with this one. And I downloaded it, and it's the Fish Lips Kiss heel. Fish Lips Kiss heel. Yeah, I gotta watch that or I'll stumble over it. And basically it refers to the fact that when a small child comes up to you and they're trying to give you a kiss, they stick their lips out like a little fish, like that. Okay, so anyway, so it kind of looks like that, right? That's what the heel kind of looks like. Anyway, it makes a nice smooth heel. It does fit well. And this was my first time using it. It was very simple to use. It was just the side of being autopilot knitting. For those of you who haven't heard that term before, it's ripped off straight from the Knit More Girls podcast, which I'll also link to in the show notes. And instead of potato chip knitting or something like that, or brainless knitting or something like that. They refer to that kind of knitting, the kind of knitting where you can let your fingers do the work and your brain can do some other stuff while maybe putting on the back burner the fact that you're knitting. And you can just knit without thinking about it, and suddenly you've got like 2.5 inches of sock and you weren't even thinking about it. They refer to that kind of knitting as autopilot knitting. And there's times when I need that. But this was a very autopilot-y kind of project. And I'm real pleased with how they turned out. I'm pleased with the heel. The method I have found, I'm going to tweak a little, but that's because that's how I am. I'm going to tweak it just about everything I work with that involves clothing for me. Anyway, it works really, really well for me. I'm very pleased, and of course now I have another pair of socks, and by gum, these fit me. Hello. So that's my first project. I named it Nomini Huik, which is my somewhat outdated, very old and extremely rusty Latin for name goes here. So my other project, and this is what will probably count a bit for stash as well, is number 1. I made these. Let's see, yes. So these are card weaving or tablet weaving cards that I have made. You can see them A, B, C, and D. And then I made those this week. Those are made from, I just used some poster board we had around the house from one of the girls' old science projects, and some clear contact paper on both sides. And rounded the corners off and put them on the contact paper, and then cut them out again, because, evidently this is the week of can't cut out enough stuff. And that, over the weekend, on Sunday, I bought PVC pipes and PVC fixtures. And I made a thing. I made the thing. See the thing? This is a PVC loom that I can use for the card weaving. For card weaving. These cards will be used for this. Basically, the way this works is you tie the beginning of your band that you're going to make, because that's what this is for. This is for making narrow bands of cloth. And you tie your beginning down here, and you bring it up over here and back here. And your cards sit right here. And twisting and turning the cards back and forth towards you makes a shed, a weaving area. And then this, if you can see the holes there that my husband kindly did while I was doing something else, I can put this is a really, really old knitting needle that somebody gave to me. It's made of metal. Anyway, and it's going to fit nicely in there and turn, and it'll be my cloth take-up bar. So, basically, it goes like this. Excuse me. Let me use a finger instead of a very narrow gray thing. So it goes like this, where the beginning goes, and then the weaving happens, and it goes over the bar, it comes back here, it weaves, and then this will twist the completed band on. And I made it, and it cost me less than $10. Less than $10 projects. I love those. Those are my favorite. It's fully functional. I thought that I would need the PVC primer and cement for this, and I really didn't at all. It's super snug. As a matter of fact, we had to grease this one with some white petroleum jelly so that it would turn. Now, the front, you can see the difference between the front and the back. The back has these 3-point joints, and the front does not. The reason for that is that raising this much off the surface that I'm sitting it on is going to allow me to put more fabric on the end, which will result in the ability to weave a lot more band length, is to put a lot more band length on there before I have to stop or try to see, in this case I can also put rubber stoppers in there, such as you would use for your test tubes or whatever in organic. And I can either choose to raise it or put each rear corner on a book or something like that if I determine that I'm going to need much more length than I have. So I'm really, really happy about that. I've been looking up, I joined the Historic Tablet Weaving group on Facebook, which I recommend to you. There's a lot of people with really great sources on there. And I've been consulting with some of them. And of course I have some folks who do lots of different string fibers, who are friends of mine on Facebook generally, and they've given me several recommendations as well. Last night, while my husband and I caught up on Gotham, which I'm enjoying, caught up on Gotham, I did a little bit of research on what my first project is going to be like. I'm probably going to make something very simply patterned with just 2 colors and mess around with twisting forward and twisting back on the cards. And if you have ever thought to check that out before, I really, really recommend it. Like I said, that costs like $10. The project page that I have up for this, which again I will put in the show notes, the project page features the lengths of PVC pipe and the kind of joints that you'll need. Now, I used 3/4 inch white PVC pipe. Just use the white stuff. The tan stuff is going to be for hot and cold. And I'm not sure what the black PVC stuff is for. I'm not that much into house construction that I'm going to understand. But either way, the black and the tan stuff is going to be far more expensive than the white stuff, which is going to be plenty strong enough to do what you're asking it to do. Now, with this being my first experiment with the PVC pipe, it could turn out that I do need to cement the joints, that I need to be completely stationary, so that back cloth bar and whatnot will retain its ability to be able to twist, but the rest of it might not be able to, which would kind of stink, because I'd like to be able to remove that one bar that sits at 90 degrees to the plane of the weaving itself, of the rest of the loom, because that would make it really, really travel friendly. You could pack it down flat, just about. No, yeah, you could pack it down pretty flat, and just take it along, and all you would have to, you could even leave your project on. All you would have to do would be to set that crossbar back up, and you're back in town. So I'm really hoping that this is going to be an example where I don't need to worry about that. But I really think it's going to be. My first project's probably going to be I have a lot of like crochet cotton, like you could get at your average big box store or wherever, in the large balls. I have some of that, 2 colors. I'm going to use that for my first project. After that, I might look into silk, but if I do that, I'm going to get better cards, because these are good for a first project. What a lot of people actually do is go to like the dollar store or something like that, pick up a pack of cards, and cut them off to be square, round those 2 edges, and then use playing cards. I would, if I'm going to keep doing this, I'm probably going to advance to paying somebody for some laser cut wood cards. I have a source for that. I think so for laser cut wood cards that will be strong, but also less horribly wearing for the silk because of the way they're cut and then finished. And if need be, of course, I can always sand it down to finish it better. Let's see. Yes. Wonderfully Knit podcast completely condones caffeination in any form, but this is warm, so, it's my... Yes. We have not quite adopted, but kind of adopted a stray cat that showed up over the weekend. So if you hear some meow, meow, meow in the background, it's because he is 100% convinced that he belongs inside where the people are. I think he thinks he's part dog. He's totally a shoulder cat. He showed up and he's just skin and bone. So we're going to feed him, and then we're going to get him fixed and like rabies shots and probably some feline leukemia shot. Because we have other cats in our house. It's just that our other cats in the house are generally far more low energy point of their day and much quieter at this point of the day. And so you haven't generally heard them yet. But he is evidently a 24/7 cat because, of course, he's a dog. My eldest tried to name him after an anime character, and we didn't. That's not going to stick because the name that she used also sounds like the Spanish term for toilet, and I just refuse to call any cat toilet or toilet cat because no. Anyway, so that's been really what's been going on the past couple of weeks. It's not that I haven't been doing anything. It's just that I've been doing a lot of stuff that's been kind of resulting in treading water and not so much crafting, which is rather sad. Here in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to see about getting a new shell sewn up for my interview suit, because I have an interview at the end of this week, or at the end of this month, that I'll be going to, and I would like to have a new shell for my new suit, because I managed to score a really good suit here at the end of the year and some clearance stuff, and I'm going to be wearing it, and it's navy blue, not black. But it will need a shell because what I have right now is not going to work. Because I dyed it purple. However, it will still be a really nice silk shell because I was able to score some good material for that, and I think it'll do really well. So, anyway, so that's been the podcast for today. Again, watch for our Facebook group. Have a look at our show notes at our various websites, and we will see you guys next week. Have a good one.